This is Erica from Autofluencer. Welcome to Creators and Coffee. And I have with me Annie from Annie's VW. You may know her from her DIY build. Of what year VW is it?
It's a 1969.
1969 VW. And you've been working out, you've named her Helen,
Helen
correct?
Wheels. That's her full
Helen
name.
Wheels.
Helen Wheels. Yep.
Helen with first and last. So she's got both. She can get a passport. And so how long have you been working on Helen?
So I got her late in 2020, but I didn't really start working on her until about really consistently until March of 2021. So it's been a few years.
And had you ever worked on a car before?
No, never. But I always wanted to.
Yeah. So like the whole thing is kind of in the learning process, and you've done a great job. Give her a follow of kind of posting both the ups and the downs. And yeah, all the learnings. I think one thing I wanted you to share with our audience that I've really loved in following you is how you engage with comments. And there's a couple different areas to that. One thing I've noticed on yours is sometimes you seem, I think because you're going through this process and it's a learning process, you tend to get like a decent amount of like trolls or like know-it-alls who are like, oh, you should do it this way. Why do you not that way? They're annoyed. They're annoyed. They want to share it. Just the way you handle it is so great. So talk to us a little bit about what is your advice to people when they get trolls on their comment section? I mean, I would be like tempted to delete it, but you don't. You leave it.
No, I've kind of committed from the beginning just to try and engage with as many people as possible because I mean it's a social media network. And so people who want to engage, I want to engage back. Now, every comment is not a winner. And like you said, you get a lot of people who are just wanting to assert their knowledge, I think. And that's just a nice way of saying they want to tell you how to do things, or they're upset with the way that you're doing things. But you mentioned it. This is a learning, like this whole process. I'm showing everything. I don't sugarcoat it. You know, Instagram has a real habit of just showing, like users, just showing the really good stuff. I kind of show it all. So as far as comments goes, you get a real array of comments. And I had really positive comments up until I got to a certain number of following and a certain number of posts going, I guess you could say viral, that sort of thing. And then you start getting sort of the negative troll comments and things like that. And I just try and take it with a little bit of a grain of salt. I can't take it personally because I don't know them. And so one thing I know is that people you don't know or, you know, that you don't respect, like we have no rapport, they can't actually hurt you.
Right. That's great. That's great. And I have seen, which I think is funny, you've actually taken sometimes to your actual content to talk a little bit about and to address some of their concerns. I think of the whole like Bondo debacle and people, you know, when you're I think it's great. Like,
I think it's important to have fun with it. There's been very rarely a time where a comment has really bothered me because I know that they, you know, so many times they're coming in. It's like someone coming in and reading one sentence out of a paragraph of a chapter of a very long book, and they get mad at that one sentence. And so I understand that they're seeing like very little of the whole story. So sometimes I respond, sometimes I don't. I try not to delete comments unless they're really maybe vulgar or crass or anything. Very rarely has that happened. But I think for me, I just want to have fun with it. So sometimes I respond, and I think it's a hilarious response. They sometimes don't think it's funny, but I think it's hilarious. So I think the key is just laugh about it and have some fun.
I think it's also funny too. And I think with really kind of how you've handled some of these comments or, you know, some of these people, I like how you say it, asserting their knowledge. It's been interesting too to see how other people will pick it up and reshare how you've handled it on their social, in their stories.
Right.
And then I've seen it because you've shared it back. And I think that's great. I mean, you're clearly doing something right. It's definitely, I think most of us do think it's very funny. Um, and so I think it's great. And, like you said, your audience has grown. You're now at over 60,000 on Instagram, which is really a big number. I look at a lot of creator profiles, and you and I were recently talking about this, but once you kind of cross over 50,000, you're in a new category of content creator, right? And you've got a very engaged audience, not just through your comments and your likes, but also through, you get a lot of DMs, you get a lot of people asking you questions,
Yeah.
which is huge. How have you, I think a lot of people would like to know, as their audience grows as a creator, how do you time balance? Because you do a really great job of going through your comments, of responding to DMs. Like, how do you find that time? Or have you had to change since you were smaller to now where you're at? Like, what have you had to do different?
Yeah, that's a really great question. And it has changed. Going from 10,000 when everything was really manageable, you could really get to all the DMs and all the comments, to now over 60,000. It's becoming a little bit less manageable. I can't sit there and respond to everything all the time. And so there are some things that have changed. And by changed, I mean, I can't respond now to every comment. We talked about the comments that are just like a thumbs up and fire, 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 fire. I can't respond to those with just more emojis. And so I'm finding that I have to, if someone is responding with an actual comment, I try my very best to respond to those. And also, I kind of have a little bit of a rule now that if someone comments on something that is more than about a week or 10 days old, I just don't respond anymore, because I just can't, because those start to pile up too. So I try and stay really engaged and up to date on all reels and posts that have been posted just in the last, 7 to 10 days. And then anything beyond that, I have to just kind of let go. Occasionally one will come up and it's a really good question and I will respond, but I can't always, get to those. And then as far as DMs, I the same thing, when you're at 10,000, it's easier to get to all the DMs and actually have engagement there. Whereas now I can't always respond to the people who are just saying, hey, or, wanting to show me a picture of their car. But I always, 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 if someone has a question or, wants to make a comment about something I've done and then follow up with more questions, I always, always, always try to engage, because, and we talked about this before, I'm getting a lot of that from other DIYers. And I was in that boat where I had so many questions and I just wish someone would answer my questions, but you don't know who to ask. So I don't want to ever not try and help them find an answer. And I don't always have the answer. And I'll just tell them, that's something you might want to research on your own. This is what I've done, but I actually don't know if it's right. So figure it out.
Yeah.
Things have definitely changed over time.
Yeah, I think those are such great points on kind of as we think about comment management. So, the first one you talked about was don't take it personal. Right?
Yeah.
There are going to be negatives. You don't know the person. You don't have a relationship. They can't hurt you. Don't take it personal. I love that. It's such a good reminder. And it can be challenging. I mean, it can be hard. And then, the other one is, be smart about, you don't need to respond to every as you get larger. I love that like put a cutoff for yourself. Like if it's responses on comments older and then a certain quality of comment or question or DM, I think that's really powerful. So one last question for you, Annie, as we talk about comments. When do you find the time, right? Because you are not a full-time creator, which someone seeing they have 60,000, well, yeah, they might think, oh, she does this full time. You are not. You have a job, you have a family, you've got the working on the vehicle, and then you got to edit the content, you got to post the content. When do you find the time to respond to the comments?
Well, I find if I do it first thing in the morning for about 45 minutes, or maybe last thing at night, or during the day, I can just shoot off a comment really quick, that sort of thing. And I should mention too that, I'm in a very interesting stage of life right now where my children are actually older. They're teenagers, so they're not as demanding. So I've got that's not like pulling me
Right.
like a lot of my time. Of course, it does take time, but different stage of life. And also, I'm in a different stage of life where my job, like my worky work, is very part-time. I mean, it's not, it's part-time, but full-time pay. So I can really, I kind of work for myself. I can really manage my time. So I am able
Yeah.
to really carve out, time to do these things. But also the other thing is, and this is something that I find really important when you're doing this social media stuff, it's got to remain fun and it can't take up all your time. So as soon as
Yeah.
it's taking up too much time
Yeah.
and just not being fun anymore, I would say take a break until it becomes
Yeah.
those things again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Great advice. I love the scheduling. I think that's really important,
Yeah.
right? Pick a time. This is my comment management time and just schedule it. It's great if you can get those one-offs, but I find that if you don't have something on the calendar, like a set time frame,
Right.
it can sometimes just not get done. And then it builds, especially as you get larger, you have too much.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
thank you so much, Annie. We appreciate. Go give her a follow, and hope to talk to you again soon.
Awesome. Thank you.